We're all good. We're live. Let's get moving. We have a lot of news to discuss. All kinds of things going on in the world. But for this live stream, let's focus on, well, the big story, which will be Flynn and Schiff and the transcripts. But we also have the breaking story that Tara Reade's ex-husband has now also corroborated her claims against creepy, sleepy Uncle Joe. So as we wait for more people to join us in the live stream, Spartan Warrior Queen moderating. Thank you very much, Spartan Warrior Queen. How are you doing today? How are things going for you? And for everyone joining us on this live stream, thank you very much, guys. Remember to hit that like, comment, share the channel with everybody that you know. YouTube does not like to share our channel out with many people on their platform. So we need your help to get the word out about the Duran. And with us in Moscow, the host of RT's Crosstalk, Mr. Peter Lavelle. Peter, how you doing on this busy News Friday?
Don't be scared. It's me. Okay. I'm not on chemo, and I didn't survive a fire. Okay. I cut my hair. I did it myself. My housekeeper came yesterday and helped trim the back because I couldn't do the back very well. So this is my Coven crew. I'm not making a political statement here. I just don't like long hair, and it's getting hot here. Okay. So just wanted to explain everything. I'm okay. And yes, what a breaking news day we have here. And I'll just say, because I can tend to be long-winded, I just want to say this to our loyal viewers that I so much appreciate on this venue and at Crosstalk. We were right again. I mean, very few other platforms have our road record. Our record is very, very strong on the topics that we are aggressive about here. Okay, so go back
Tuesday
now, and then 3 years now. And what you'll hear today is an echo of what we said then. We just have a lot more pieces, a lot more dots and moving pieces that are coming into focus here. So I pat my colleagues on this podcast on the back, and I thank our loyal viewers for sticking with us because, sometimes, when you're right, you're happy, but, being right, when you see so many lives destroyed, okay, and people on the other side of this argument, how feckless and amoral they are. So I very rarely pat ourselves on the back, but we're owed one right now. So I'll pass it over to Alexander.
Yep. Alexander, people can just go back to our Tuesday stream. Tuesday we did the live stream, right? And you'll get into it, Alexander, when we discuss Flynn. But I think you were perfect when you said exactly the best road to take in order to exonerate Flynn. And that's exactly what happened. And I think in a message that you sent to the three of us, you said you didn't even expect it to happen this quickly. No. But you'll get into that. You'll get into that when we discuss Flynn. And you'll give us your take on the transcripts and the interviews, which I'm sure you read. But everybody, it is Alexander Mercurs, the Oracle of London in London. How are you doing, Alexander?
I am doing very well. And I'm actually, this has been a gloriously bright, sunny day in London, like so many we've had. And just for once, we feel, exhilarated and happy because it's been good to see this business with Flynn sorting itself out. I mean, this has always weighed on me. The Flynn business has weighed on me a lot, actually. So I'm very happy for him. But we here in London, that's to say my wife and I, and our dogs and our cats, we've got 2 cats. People don't know that, but I think Peter has seen both of them. We're all happy and we're all well. And we're looking forward to a nice, happy weekend together, which is what we have to do over lockdowns, which in Britain, by the way, in London at least, are going to last for 3 weeks more, at least. Probably longer.
All right. And with that, we hope everyone is doing well wherever you are in the world during these difficult times. And if you are in lockdown, we hope you are keeping busy and keeping healthy. And let's see where everyone is joining us from all over the world. Real quickly, we have a couple of quick super chats I want to get to. Valley S, as always, Valley S. Thank you very, very much, Valley, for all your contributions and for joining us. Holly Canoli has now become a member of the Duran community. Guys, click that join button underneath the video. You will see a join button to become a member of our community. It's only $1.99. We appreciate the help there. And Samuel Stafford, a $200 super chat, Samuel, thank you very, very much. His message is, I'm sharing the Duran with all my friends. You're the sane voice in a crazy world. Well done. Thank you very, very much, Samuel, for that generous super chat. Guys, let's see where people are joining us from around the world. Elaine, how you doing, Elaine? Thank you for your lovely work. Thank you, Elaine, for that. DB 1968. If only he was a bit more sleepy and a lot less, I won't say that word, creepy. We'll say creepy to make it rhyme. Let's see where else. AJ, how you doing, AJ? Good to have you with us. Roy Robinson, Crystal Ball, how you doing, Crystal? Tamika Alexander, yesterday was my birthday. Happy birthday, Alexander. From Libyo in Perth, Australia. Hello, Libby. How are you? From Cheshire, UK. Jonathan, how you doing, Jonathan? Zelda from St. Anne's, UK. Peter from Sydney. Hey, Peter, how are you doing? Sydney Powell, a great, courageous lawyer. Alexander will talk about Sydney Powell and the work she did as a lawyer, which was absolutely
awesome.
Phenomenal. Yes. Very brave woman. Dieter, how are you doing, Dieter? Good to have you here with us. Let's see where else people are joining us from. Brooklyn, New York. Adriana from Pennsylvania. Christopher from St. Louis, Missouri. Ruby's 200. Guys, you've been ghosted by YouTube. Yes, we have been ghosted by YouTube, which means we are over the target. Keep that in mind, guys. The more they ghost us and suppress us, it means the closer to the truth we are. JT in Hampshire. Hello, JT. Hi from Canada. Let's see, from Wales. And I think that's Michigan, Alexander, right?
Can I just see what he's up to?
Yeah, go ahead. I'll read some more people's message in the live stream from Manchester, UK. How's everyone doing in Manchester? Bali, Indonesia. Hey, Pamela. How are things in Indonesia? From Croatia. How is everything in Croatia? Beautiful country. From Holland. Hello, everyone in Holland. From LA. Let's see. Free Assange. Yes, free Assange. I agree with that. Free Roger Stone, Peter. Free Assange. Hell, free Manafort. Free Cohen.
And Flynn freed. And Flynn freed.
And Flynn freed. That's right. That's right.
Well, technically not yet, but yes. Okay.
He will be. He will be. Rachel Green, greetings from Sparta. All right. Melbourne, Australia. Graham, how are things in Melbourne? Hi from Alicante. Hello from Amsterdam. From Dublin. Hey, Susan, how are you doing? Phoenix FP 40 from Colchester. From Norway. Maria says, hiya from Essex, England. Dieter, thanks, Alex. Peter Alexander. Hello from Berlin. All right. You guys want to get rolling? Want to discuss a little Biden before we get to the main story here, which is Flynn. So let me read you guys first from the Sacramento Bee. The title says, exclusive 1996 court document confirms Tara Reade told of harassment in Biden's office. From Fox News, 1996 court doc shows Tara Reade's ex-husband knew about sexual harassment while she worked for Biden. And of course, from Zero Hedge, highlights that there was a court filing which corroborates Biden accusers' claim she was harassed, and how Megyn Kelly has now taken the lead on this story. She has the first interviews with Tara Reade.
No. She has the first mainstream.
The first mainstream. Correct. The first mainstream media interviews with Tara Reade. And Tara Reade, I saw those clips on Twitter. Tara Reade looks confident and relaxed during those interviews, and she insists that Joe Biden needs to drop out. Guys, if I can read to you a message that we were sending on WhatsApp that I sent, and Peter Alexander comment on it. This is what I told you guys. I said, it's clear to me this was a setup. I'm reading a WhatsApp group that we discuss stories on, guys. This is what I said. It's clear to me this was a setup. There's obviously a paper trail, which means the powers at the DNC knew about Reade, but they pushed Biden to run anyway, and they supported him.
To trip up Bernie first. Okay, keep going.
Okay. I think Biden has no clue what is about to be done to him. The endorsements from Pelosi, Obama, and Hillary last week was a smokescreen to a bigger game being played. One by one, the Dems will begin to jump ship and support what I think will be a woman as the new candidate for the Democrats. Peter, what do you think? Alexander, what do you guys think of this story?
Well, I mean, first of all, if the Sacramento Bee, which I lived close to Sacramento for many years. I went to UC Davis and later to UC Berkeley. I mean, and they do good work, but I mean, that's not really a deep investigative reporting on the level of what we've seen with political opposition. So, I mean, it was out there. People have known this. It's really quite pathetic that the number of people that probably did know about it didn't want it exposed, and that somehow they could ride this out. When it went from believe the woman to believe Joe in two short years. But I mean, the fact that the Biden people have been blindsided by this, we have to assume that at this point here, that they've been blindsided. It shows what a crappy campaign that they're running, and how it looks like to me, we'll see how things unfold, but it's the DNC created a trap for him, because if you put this all together, he's toxic, okay? He's toxic. And the sad thing is, and I don't want to be cruel right now, I mean it, is that maybe he doesn't even remember any of these things, okay? I mean, I think that's fully possible, okay? But because that's fully possible, he's not the right person to run, okay? I mean, this is elder abuse, okay, at the very least, all right? But there are devious forces in the DNC. They are a devious group of people, okay? The way they flip-flop on the Me Too movement. I mean, you had op-eds, yeah, well, maybe he did do it, but I'm going to still vote for him. I mean, these people are spooky toxic, all right? Now, what is the chances, and this is something I'm going to throw back at Alexander Christopher, is that, do you think this is a Clinton dirty trick for HRC? Yeah, come on, go ahead.
You know what I think? People in the live stream know what I think. Alexander, what do you think?
Well, let me first of all say, the Sacramento Bee, as Peter correctly says, does not have the investigative resources that the DNC does, that the New York Times does, that the Washington Post does, that MSNBC does, that CNN does. I mean, if any one of those organizations had wanted to investigate and check out Biden properly, this would have come out. I mean, there's no conceivable way that it could not have come up. At least that's
public document, a public
document. Besides which, we now have mounting corroboration from all sorts of sources. The other thing is, these allegations about Biden, not maybe the specific Tara Reid allegations, but the allegations that he's, a man with, shall we say, moving fingers and hands, who doesn't keep himself to himself and is not a good person for a young woman to be too close to. These allegations have been floating around for years. There is nothing new about them. It is inconceivable that, to me, that the DNC and all of the people within the Washington, the insider world of Washington, didn't know about this. So either they were, they were hoping to get this candidate through by some sort of extraordinary and monstrous bluff that they thought, the fact that everybody knew wouldn't somehow come up, which seems to me incredible. Or some people in the DNC must have assumed that sooner or later it would all end in a train wreck. And that does make some extraordinary questions. Now, on Biden, maybe he has forgotten, but when he was asked about it, he didn't say, I don't remember. Had he said that, he'd have had to pull out, but he could have said that, I don't remember. He unequivocally and categorically denied that it happened. If he doesn't remember, then that was a lie. If it happened, that's also a lie. So either he is telling the truth, but we now have all this corroboration piling up. We have Tara Reid, who in that case would have been saying things which are untrue, not just now, but also then. And do people do that to the extent that she has done? Not in my experience.
And being a lifelong Democrat on top of it, okay? I mean, she said that Biden should drop out, and she's by no stretch of imagination a Trump surrogate, okay?
Correct.
The interesting thing for me too, let's make this very clear. We try to stay as close to the facts as possible. The court filings use the word assault, okay? Excuse me, harassment. So the court filing, if I read it correctly, doesn't talk about any form of assault. It is a harassment. Okay, so because as we said the last time that we spoke about this, we probably will never know to what extent that assault, that harassment went. Okay, but her ex-husband corroborated this, that she was assaulted, and she was reeling from her experience from leaving Biden's office, okay? What's really important right now, and going back to Christopher's point in his exchange with us on WhatsApp, the timing, it just simply can't be a coincidence here, okay? Again, the Sacramento Bee, good solid newspaper, it's a regional newspaper, but it doesn't have the resources to be, this kind of cutting edge thing that, that Apple Research is all about. The primary isn't over, folks. Joe Biden, as we speak right now, does not have a plurality of delegates. It's wide open right now. The issue here for many in the Democratic Party, or who vote vote Democrat, is that the person that came in second, as it stands right now in the primary, is Bernie Sanders. Now, what kind of, how is the DNC going to twist itself into a pretzel this time, okay? So you have the number 2 is going to be denied it, I guess, the 3rd time in 2 runs, in place of whom? Elizabeth Warren, that got 3rd place in her own state. Okay, Kamala Harris, that flamed out after Iowa. So, I mean, Pete, Corey, I don't see it. Klobuchar, I just don't see it.
Well,
and
Peter, could I ask you a question?
And I have to tell you is that, and I think it's so understated in the mainstream media how seethingly angry the Bernie bros are. And again, I say that in a nice way and not in a pejorative way. Is that they're going to say a 3rd time, okay, and they will say, the party rules are on our side. We have the delegates. I mean, they have a very strong case to make. I mean, I agree. They're not going to give it to them. But what kind of pretzel is the DNC going to fold itself into this time? Okay. And meanwhile, as this civil war brews on, who's the winner? Trump.
Okay, Peter, I'm going to ask you a question. Alexander, I want you to also comment on this. Going off of what Peter said, Bernie has already endorsed Biden. He's already taken a knee. He's out. And we know that Bernie doesn't have the strength.
But he hasn't, no, he's endorsed them, but he hasn't ended his campaign.
Correct. He hasn't ended the campaign. But we also know, all of us know, and everyone in the live stream know that Bernie doesn't have the strength, the moral fiber.
No, not moral fiber, the political guts.
The political guts, call it whatever you want, to go ahead and dispute, his the fact that he should be the candidate. He's not going to do it. We know that. He doesn't have the courage. What candidate, if you're the Democrats and you're in this quote unquote bind, all of a sudden you're stuck in this bind where Biden has to drop out, and Bernie's not going to take over the mantle. Who could you possibly choose with name recognition, with a political machine in place, with endless amounts of money to be the candidate? Who could it possibly be with the experience to run? Who could it be?
You have to write the name on your forehead, okay? Alexander, I'm curious, what do you think? I mean,
well,
Adlai Stevenson ran twice against Eisenhower and lost, okay? So Hillary 2.0. I'll tell you that she could not build the Obama coalition in 2016. She will not be able to do the Obama coalition again in 2020. It's working white men didn't vote for her. Okay, they voted for Obama. Okay, they voted for Obama twice, but they wouldn't vote for her. Nothing changed why they would vote for her now. She cannot build that coalition. So, I mean, it's going to go down in flames. Okay, I don't know. Okay, but this mantra that I've heard from Mr. Christopher now for over a year, coming to a head again. I just don't see it. I mean, and if they do it, it's a fool's errand. That's how I see it. Go ahead, Alex.
I mean, what I'd say quickly is, I mean, for the first time, I've actually been seeing sort of the edge of the mainstream media in the United States floating this possibility. There was an extraordinary article in The Hill, which is a, fairly mainstream publication, in which they were actually debating that. They were saying that, there's talking within the Democratic Party that if Biden flames out, then, who can they bring in? Well, Hillary Clinton is the person. I'm going to say this, if they do make Hillary Clinton their candidate, well, it's what we Greeks say. Those whom the gods destroy, they first make mad. The idea of running Hillary Clinton as a candidate in this election would, I think, spell the end of the Democratic Party as we have known it. I mean, everybody, and I include myself here, would assume, almost certainly rightly, that this was part of a plot. That's the first thing to say. I mean, secondly, I mean, it's important to say, I mean, Biden has won candidates. I mean, he's won primaries. Bernie has won primaries. Hillary has won no primaries. He hasn't even been standing. Leveraging her in this way would be, it would be such a shocking thing to the American people, to the supporters of the Democratic Party. I mean, it's a horrifying idea, and you do it at precisely the time when Russiagate, which we're going to come to, is disintegrating. But what I said is people do sometimes go mad, and I suppose it's possible. The only thing I would say is, if we do get into a situation where they start bringing up Hillary as a potential replacement for Biden, then of course Bernie Sanders' position does become incredibly difficult. If he comes out and endorses Hillary Clinton in that situation, if he doesn't stand his ground and say, if Biden is going, the candidate must be me, then I cannot. I
think there's a variation on that.
Yeah.
I don't think Bernie will come out and endorse Hillary. I don't think he would do that. Okay. He would free his delegates. He would free his voters here, which means that they're not going to follow along. They're not going to do this again. Okay. There is a very strong movement now among progressives is not to participate in this farce. Okay. And that will work for the DNC, but that's a Pyrrhic victory because that's not the general election. Okay. Now, there's a lot of different scenarios out there that are possible to mollify the faction of the party that have had enough of the toxic Clinton clan, is maybe offer her the vice presidency as a guiding hand. Okay. And then someone like Amy Klobuchar could be thrown in there. No, because what it would be is that, basically, it would help Amy in and solidify. I mean, you have to, CNN, MSNBC, all the rest of them would come rallying around very, very quickly. I could be absolutely wrong, and I may be so intensely prejudiced because I can't, even Hillary Clinton drives me mad, okay? I mean, I remember during the 2016 election on Crosstalk, have all these people come in, Peter, that's because you don't want a woman. And I said, I don't want that woman. I have nothing against a woman, okay, at all being a head of state. Not at all, okay? We could have our California, from Hawaii, our congressman from Hawaii. We could have Candace, I think, for the Republican Party. If she ran for president one day, I would support her, okay? I mean, and she's a Black woman, okay? So it has anything to do with gender, okay? And I'm so tired of that trope, okay? But I do think because the Democrats want to play this diversity card, and they'll lose with it, they're gonna go with somebody like Klobuchar at the end of the day. And I think that Trump will rout her.
Yeah.
Can I wrap it, Alexander? Can I say a couple?
Can I just say what I was going to say? Because what I was going to say was, if Bernie doesn't stand his ground, it won't just be the Democratic Party that which will be in total crisis. It will be the whole American left, because it really will be. Because if there is not a left-wing challenge to this from the so-called leader of the left in America, then I think most people in America who are or consider themselves to be left-wing will consider that there is in fact no left-wing in America.
Well,
You will see a Republican hegemony solidify and continue, possibly for decades.
Well, see, this is the different places that these two major parties are. Is that you have a populist insurgence in the Republican Party. Now, it doesn't always succeed, okay? It ebbs and flows, okay? Because the RNC is just as bad as the DNC, okay? But the difference is that you do have a burgeoning populism in the Republican Party. And the interesting thing is that Democrats, who do they hate most? It's not Republicans. They hate progressives, okay? That's who they have their venom for, okay? They reserve every ounce of their venom to go after the left in their own party. I mean, look what's going on in Washington. I mean, at the end of the day, they agree on almost everything, okay? Really, okay? And it's a real show all the time. But it's the DNC. They just have they're laser focused on the Bernie bros, to some extent Elizabeth Warren, though she's such a bizarre political animal. But they keep their eye on them to keep sure that they stay down. All right, that's why the DNC would more than happy to have what we call a moderate, okay, because that's their world, okay, and that person would play by the rules, and so I think if a misstep here, and they will, because this is the DNC, they're incompetent, they're arrogant, and they're immoral. They're going to set this party on fire. Big time, and they're going to burn themselves to the ground, okay? Which would be a good thing, okay? I think that you can have a liberal party, you can have a progressive party, and that would work better, okay? Burn this stuff to the ground. It doesn't work for the vast majority of voters and people and working people in America. Burn it to the ground, metaphorically, of course, metaphorically.
Yeah.
It's going to be, sorry, Alexander, real quick. This is such a shit show with the Democrats. It really is. This is going to be, my opinion, Hillary and Michelle Obama. I'm sorry. That's what I think it's going to happen. Yeah. I saw Michelle Obama's Netflix thing. That was a campaign commercial.
Very well timed again.
Yeah, very well timed. I think it's going to be, and it clicks all the diversity cards. It clicks.
Yeah, but Alex, I looked at some of the excerpts. I haven't watched it, and I won't watch it. Okay, but I saw some of the excerpts, and you know what? She blames the voters for letting her down, letting her husband down. See. This is the fundamental error that the elites and particularly liberals make, is that they see no errors in their own thinking and actions. They see errors only in the eyes, in the voters. Okay, you can't run politics that way. They've totally inverted it. Okay, the people are not worthy of my husband's legacy. You can't win elections that way.
We were talking before the live stream, guys. I mean, Nancy Pelosi was eating $30 ice creams during a pandemic and lockdown in front of a $30,000 refrigerator. I mean, they have
Chicago breaks quarantine to get a haircut.
Yeah, I mean, they have no.
And they put
they're in La La Land. All these elites are in La La Land.
In Texas, they put her in jail.
Exactly. Yeah. They're completely disconnected. But very quickly, Alexander, just to finish my one thought. I'm not saying it's going to definitely be a Hillary Michelle. I mean, no. I think it's such a shit show. It's a possibility.
Talking about it.
Yeah, it's such a shit show. It's a possibility. I definitely think Hillary will be there. Michelle, I think it's a very big possibility.
Yeah.
That is point number one. Point number two, on what Peter said, I agree with the Democrats that they're going to implode. But with the progressives, I think we have to make a distinction between real progressives and fake progressives.
Oh, yeah.
Jimmy Dore is a real progressive. AOC, Elizabeth Warren, Cenk Uygur, all of these guys, fake.
Absolutely.
So I think with Bernie Sanders, he is not the leader of the progressive
No, I know.
wing anymore. He's completely discredited. And with Bernie, I always say one thing: look at actions, not words. Actions speak louder than words. Bernie will fold 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times. The guy is a coward through and through. He's a coward and he's a party man. He is a Democrat from top to bottom. He is a company man.
He's an independent, and he's always rode on the back of the Democrats. Okay, so that's in a sense, Alex, it's even worse.
It's even worse.
He goes along with it.
Exactly.
Well, I'm not part of the party. Okay, so
Exactly.
I mean, that's a fair criticism.
Alexander.
Just a few things. Firstly, first of all, one thing that does make me wonder if this is a plot is that why wasn't this sprung after the convention? Because I would have thought that they would be in a much better position if they actually had a vice president.
It's better before because the primary technically is still going on, okay? And no one has a plurality vote. And that's what makes it really now they can. I said over and over again, the DNC will change the rules anytime on a drop of a hat, okay? A flip of a coin, they'll change their rules. You have to before they can afterwards, it's more problematic.
Okay, that explains that. Okay, now the other thing I was going to say is, for me, the toxic person is Hillary Clinton, whether she's president, whether she's vice president,
or in the woods.
If she is on that ticket, as I said, it will be the end of the Democratic Party. If Bernie Sanders endorses a ticket with Hillary Clinton in it, it's not just the end of him, it is the end, as I said, of the left in America. Now, when I talk about the left, be very clear, I mean its institutional expressions. Perhaps if you are a genuine left-wing person or progressive person in the United States, you might actually welcome that, given how corrupted the institutions in the United States, the so-called left-wing institutions, are. Obliterate them, start again, and have something real. But be under no illusions, that will not happen quickly. We are talking about a rebuilding from the grassroots, which will take a very long time to happen.
And I'm sorry, I want to reiterate, and we can go on to Flynn. The people that supported Bernie Sanders, they're not going to come out in droves for whoever when Biden is replaced. That's already solidified, okay? We have to start looking at that as a part of the election calculus here. And believe me, the RNC is all over this, okay, in a big, big way, because they see this chasm developing here. And there's no way to mend it. There's no way to mend it because the party is broken. It has no new ideas. And the only thing it's come up with is this diversity, Me Too nonsense, wokeism, which just alienates so many voters. We're in the middle of a pandemic and an economic crisis, for God's sake. Mm-hmm. Okay? And let me tell you one thing before we end here, because it's something I've been thinking about a lot, is that if you look at the populists on the right, and I count myself in that group, we're willing to talk about economics in a way that traditional Republicans and Republicans are unwilling to talk about. Okay, like sending direct assistance to families. I mean, before this pandemic, that was just, you never hear that. I mean, I'm open to it. I'm open to solutions, okay? I mean, if you could helicopter money to big business, why don't you helicopter money to small businesses, okay? Because 40% of them are on the line right now, 40%, okay? But my point here is that conservatives on the right, populists on the right, we're willing to talk economics here, but one thing we won't, culture. We will not budge on that. But the most important thing that is affecting people right now is the economy, stupid. Mm-hmm. And this is the opportunity to reinvent, reimagine politics in America. Unfortunately, the incompetent fools at the top will never think that way because they think about their own personal power and the power of their friends, okay? This is a huge missed opportunity. So very often a crisis brings forth new thinking. I hate using the word opportunity because it sounds really negative, but new thinking. These people in power, they're unable to think in a new way. Sorry.
All right. All right. Let's close it out. Great comment, Peter. Let's move to Flynn, to Michael Flynn. We have 2K watching now. Great. That's awesome. Guys, hit that like, share that video with everybody. Share the video with everybody. Help us out. All right, Alexander, let's move to Flynn being free and those 53 transcripts that are now public. Here is what Pelosi said about what William Barr did. And I quote, Attorney General Barr's politicization of justice knows no bounds. Michael Flynn pleaded guilty to lying to federal investigators in the face of overwhelming evidence, but now Attorney General Barr's Justice Department is dropping the case to continue to cover up for the president. That's Nancy Pelosi. This is James Comey. DOJ has lost its way, but career people, please stay because America needs you. The country is hungry for honest, competent leadership. And finally, not to be outdone, we have Shifty Adam Schiff. In a tweet, this is what Schiff said. Flynn pled guilty to lying to the FBI about his illicit Russian contacts. I guess he's referencing the ambassador. His lies do not now become truths. This dismissal does not exonerate him, but it does incriminate Bill Barr in the worst politicization of the Justice Department in its history. Alexander, 3 quick takeaways that I got from the interviews, just very quickly, 3 quick ones. Very simple takeaways. They had nothing on Flynn from the beginning, nothing on him from the beginning. Number 2, Schiff was lying all the way throughout the whole process, the 3-year process, flat out lying. And number 3, Obama was in the know from the beginning. He is the man behind the curtain, Barack Obama. Alexander, take it away.
Well, of course he was that, but let's just take it, all 3 of those comments. Let's start with Pelosi, that Flynn lied to investigators. What investigators? What were these people investigating? If you actually read the statement from the dismissal note from the Justice Department, it makes precisely that point. There was no investigation. There was no crime. There was no misconduct by Flynn. There was nothing at all for the FBI to investigate. So already Pelosi is saying something in that tweet which is clearly and manifestly wrong. Maybe Flynn did lie, though the people he spoke to, the 2 FBI agents he spoke to, didn't think so, but they were not investigators. They were out to trap him. As for Schiff,
Hang on, Alex, can I interrupt, because that's a really important point. As a legal person here, he entered a plea of lying, but it doesn't necessarily mean he did lie.
Exactly true. That's extremely true. And by the way, can I just add, if you look at the statement from the Justice Department, they have made the point, which is absolutely correct, and which I've made on many occasions, by the way, that the only situation where lying to an FBI officer becomes an offense is if it's done over the course of an investigation. There was no investigation. They were not investigating any crime, any identifiable crime that had been committed. And there was no due process either. So that's Pelosi. Schiff, I want to get on to Schiff because, of course, one of the things about this man is that he lies all the time. You know, Schiff is one of these individuals who is compulsive when he goes about it. So he talks about an illicit conversation with the Russian ambassador. There was nothing illicit about that conversation. The FBI does not say there was anything illicit about that conversation. James Comey doesn't say that there was anything illicit about that conversation. The only person who persists in saying that is Schiff. So again, a tweet from Schiff in which Schiff is once more lying. And I use that word very carefully. Now, as for Comey, he talks about, you know, all the people, you know, the career people in the FBI and the Justice Department, they should stay to serve America. The person who betrayed them is himself.
Yeah.
He is the director of the FBI who was bragging about the fact that he set these two FBI officers on Flynn in order to trap him, and he got away with it. Those are his words.
You know, here's a guy, he botched the Hillary email investigation, then he botches the FBI's role in reputation with the letter right before the general election, then the Flynn affair, and then his involvement in FISA abuse. I mean, this is the most the biggest abomination in the FBI's history. And believe me, they have a lot to answer for, okay? But here's a guy, everything he touched turned to shit. Sorry, but it's true, okay? And he's just, and all of his cabal of people around him, they are equally guilty in what they've done. I mean, when I looked at some of the transcripts of Schiff's investigations, there's absolutely nothing there. I stopped reading it. I mean, Sally Yates. I mean, how do people get to these high positions in the law? The most convoluted answers you could imagine. I had to start reading them 2 or 3 times. Like, what is she talking about? Okay. I mean, they obviously were obscuring what was really going on because nobody had anything at all. Nothing even on the margins. And it's keep in mind, I'm sorry, keep in mind, Flynn, they had him on FARA and his relationship with Turkey, and they took that off the table if you take the plea, okay? And so he pleaded to something that he didn't do. And we should remind our viewers, people do it all the time in deal making. You take the fall, okay? That's unfortunately how the legal system works. Just because you plead doesn't mean it's true. Sorry.
Just also wanted to say, just about those 3 tweets. Pelosi, Comey, Schiff, the 3 people who drove Russiagate, the 3 people who drove Ukrainegate, the 3 people who put us through an idiotic and senseless impeachment, the 3 people who had all these investigations going on for all these years, which have produced nothing, and which in the Flynn case have spectacularly collapsed. And these people talk about politicized justice. I mean, the source of these people is staggering. They should be apologizing to the American people for what they have put them through over these last 3 years, not talking about politicized justice when they have been its most relentless practitioners. And I specifically have Schiff and Comey in mind here, because Comey acted like a sort of bent cop who was fabricating evidence against people, and Schiff acted like a kind of interrogator, persecutor, prosecutor, if you like, of a kind that you find in Torquemada's Inquisition in Spain. I mean, to listen to these people talking about politicized justice, I mean, really, they are utterly shameless. That's all I can say.
And it was established very early on that someone like Carter Page was not guilty of anything, but they kept repeating the FISA warrants up to the 4th one. I mean, and their internal documents made it very clear that he was not really a person of interest, okay? It was just a means to an end. I mean, this is a conspiracy, a real conspiracy. And I don't know how to put it in the right words because I didn't study law, but they are obstructing their own obstruction, if you know what I mean, because they create something and then they start mucking up within that, okay, to keep this thing rolling on endlessly. And I always have to point out, as I always do, is that the media just egged them on. They didn't ask any inquiring questions, okay? And it seems to me, I mean, Alex, I mean, at the very least, these people could be prosecuted for obstruction.
Well, I think there's lots of things they can be prosecuted for. I mean, I don't know about Schiff and Pelosi because they're in a different world. They're within Congress. There are all sorts of immunities that go with that. But in Comey's case, well, I would say this was a fair thing. I can think of all kinds of things. I mean, perjury.
Struck McCabe.
Well, struck McCabe, perjury. Perverting the course of justice, as we would say, a conspiracy to pervert the course of justice, entrapment. I mean, there's so many things you could probably drill into. If you wanted to build a case and bring indictments, I mean, it just doesn't end. Can I just add on the Flynn point, on the specific Flynn point, Flynn, when he was being questioned by the FBI, when the FBI spoke to him on the 24th of January, they already knew because their sources were telling them that the Steele dossier, upon which they were basing the whole investigation, was a load of nonsense. The people who had actually provided the information for that dossier were telling them that it was a load of nonsense. And yes, Flynn has now been cleared. The other person who was maneuvered into a guilty plea, who was Papadopoulos, he should be exonerated also. Because it seems to me that the evidence that's coming out about Papadopoulos is that he was entrapped in exactly the same way as Flynn.
Peter, Trump said during, I think it was the first press conference about what was going on, he called this situation treasonous. He called them scumbags. We also know from the transcripts that Strzok had it in for Flynn. I mean, he was relentless. Strzok wanted at Flynn no matter what. We also know Obama had it in for Flynn.
Yeah.
I cannot in a million years imagine that Obama did not egg this thing on and order this thing.
Well,
and you mentioned Sally Yates. Sally Yates, it appears, took orders from Obama. And she was even a little kind of dumbstruck as to what Obama was telling her to do. All roads lead to Obama. And Strzok wanted to impress Comey and Obama. I think he wanted to go after Flynn to impress his superiors. He was looking at advancement.
I think they were so dumbstruck. That's why Susan Rice memorialized that meeting. The president said, "Do it by the book." Okay, why do you do that? Why do you write yourself a message like that? That's really weird. I think the people were dumbstruck. Look, the rule of thumb is here, and every White House is different, but every counterintelligence, because it deals with American citizens, counterintelligence operations, the White House is informed. Okay, so I would really like to know in Obama's morning briefings, which are memorialized, are under Steele right now. I think someone like Flynn should have the right to go to a court and have the seals broken and say, what did you know about me? What were you doing about it? Okay, and it seems obvious to me that we have so many inferences now and direct connections to Obama that of course he knew what was going on. Apparently he told Trump as he was taking office, there's two people I'm warning you about, Kim Jong-un and Michael Flynn. I mean, whoa, isn't that an admission?
Okay. Can I just say something about Obama? First of all, I agree completely with the point that Obama must have known what was going on. I mean, counterintelligence investigations, the person who is primarily advised about them is the President of the United States. They are not criminal probes. Flynn was being put through a counter-espionage investigation. So that must have been passed on to Obama. Remember, he was also the national security advisor of the president-elect of the United States. You're telling me that the FBI investigates such a person and they don't tell the president? I don't believe it. There is something else. Now, as we know, there was this crazy theory, completely crazy theory, that Flynn talking to the Russian ambassador was a violation of something called the Logan Act. Nobody in Washington knew anything or thought about the Logan Act. Who is the sort of person who might know about the Logan Act, this 18th century law that hasn't been used?
No one has been successfully prosecuted. No one has ever been prosecuted.
And the last prosecution was in the 1850s. That's the kind of thing that legal practitioners, I mean, they don't think about something like that. I mean, an obsolete law like that. They don't think about it. Academics think about it. Who is the academic lawyer?
Constitutional lawyer.
The great constitutional lawyer. The professor. Exactly. So, did Sally Yates, when she came up with this obscure thing that no one had ever heard about, did she talk about it with Obama? Who came up with it first? Just asking.
Bingo. Bingo.
And just for the record, folks, is that at least in my lifetime, every time there is a president-elect, as the transition goes through, the appointed national security advisor talks to his counterparts all over the world. It is standard practice. Standard practice. And as we know from the leaked conversation, Kislyak and Flynn talked about Israel and sanctions. They didn't talk about Russia at all, from what we know. And of course, who leaked that? Okay, unprecedented.
Well, actually,
unprecedented leaking that kind of information during a transition. I mean, we've gone over this ground before, but it's good to reiterate this: how horrific this attack on the rule of law has been. Go ahead, Alex.
I mean, actually, it's very good that you brought this up, Peter, because what we know about from these conversations is that Flynn and the Trump people at that time were canvassing foreign states to vote against a resolution that the Obama administration was putting together to the UN Security Council on the topic of Jerusalem. By the way, and that is an incredibly sensitive topic, and one which would have directly concerned Obama himself, because it's very, very much his idea. So, as you correctly said, Peter, entirely proper, appropriate things that the president-elect of the National Security Advisor of the president-elect of the United States has these contacts. Every world leader wants to establish contact with the incoming US administration. They want to know what its policy positions are going to be. They want to prepare the ground so that when the new president and his team come in, they know what to deal with. They know what to do. Perfectly appropriate that they would speak to each other. Flynn did nothing wrong. And by the way, no one, apart from Adam Schiff, says that he does. But the subject that he was talking about with Kislyak, not so much the sanctions, but Jerusalem, was one which would concern Obama greatly. And again, is it conceivable that Obama didn't know?
Yeah.
I don't believe that.
And we have to also point out is that the nominal reason why Trump fired him is that Flynn misspoke, maybe lied, was economical with the truth in speaking to Mike Pence. Okay, and so it's essentially either he remembered wrong or there was an omission. It just didn't jive because they knew exactly what he said because they had the transcript of it, okay? And Flynn, to be honest, was very foolish to not understand that he was being monitored, okay? Anytime you have a telephone conversation with a major ambassador, it's memorialized. That's standard practice. Here was a guy that was in intelligence for 30 years. Yeah. He should have known better. Yeah. And he should have known better that if some crook like Peter Strzok shows up in his office, you say, I can get my lawyer, just a sec here. Let me get some transcripts here. What do you want to talk about? He should have been prepared. He was very cavalier to let him walk right into that office, okay? But it doesn't discount that he was railroaded.
No. Alexander, a quick question. Is it, okay, we now know that Flynn was trapped by the FBI. Mm-hmm. Is it possible that Flynn's attorneys at Covington and Burling, who we know have a connection to Hillary Clinton, who we know have a deep connection to Holder, who is obviously, best buddies with Obama. Is it possible in legal circles that those lawyers also trapped Flynn?
Well, I think it's not just possible. I think it's likely. I mean, the point to
And what does
understand,
that mean then?
they
That's
didn't, right,
pretty
okay,
serious stuff.
okay. Well, two things to say. Firstly, they didn't defend Flynn. I mean, they pushed him into a guilty plea, which he should never have made. If they'd done their job, like Sidney Powell has done her job, he would never have pleaded guilty. That's the first thing to say. They would have moved very quickly to dismiss the whole thing. They would have said to the Justice Department, this case cannot stand. You broke due process, which you did. I mean, they didn't even need to know the internal documents. You broke due process, and tell us what you were investigating. Tell us, what crime were you investigating? If they'd asked that question, they would have been able to tell and advise Flynn, you were not guilty and you should not plead guilty. Now, the other thing, which is the FARA registrations, they carried out the FARA registrations. Flynn didn't do it. He didn't actually go off to the various people, the authorities with whom you register. He asked his lawyers to do it for him. So they did it, and then they told him, well, actually, you've broken the law in some way on this. When it was they themselves who did it. So I think they did play a role. Now, the question is, were they involved in some larger plot? I don't know that. Maybe they were utterly incompetent, but you're right to point out they have connections with the Democrats. They're an establishment insider Washington law firm. I think they have very serious questions to answer.
Considering the motives and behaviors and actions of all of the characters that we have mentioned thus far, I think it's extremely likely they might have been involved in it. I mean, it's reasonable. It's reasonable to believe that.
Well, can I just say, I mean, reasonable, I would actually say plausible. I mean, I can't go beyond that because I don't know. But, lots of questions. Let me give you another line of questioning. If I was an investigator, and I've done investigations, if I was an investigator, I would want to speak to a certain individual, the individual who was in the Oval Office at that time. And I would say, did you speak to Sally Yates? Did you speak to other people in the Justice Department? Were you shown these transcripts of Flynn speaking to the Russian ambassador? Or were you provided with summaries of them? Did they make you angry when you saw that they were talking about Jerusalem? Did you discuss the Logan Act?
And you have to remember that Obama had it out for Flynn for a while, because after the killing of Osama bin Laden, Flynn went on Capitol Hill, because this was Obama taking his victory lap. I remember it very clearly. Okay, Osama bin Laden's dead. All he has to do is keep the economy going, and he'll be reelected. That was the rule of thumb. Everybody knew it. And then Flynn goes on Capitol Hill and says, "No, it's not all over. We have, in what we call now, a caliphate in coming into being in Syria, which of course the United States and its allies helped bring about." Okay, so I mean, when Obama was taking his victory lap, you had this very high-level 3-star general saying, "Not so fast, Mr. President," and Obama and his people remembered that.
Absolutely. I mean, again, I'm glad you bring this up, Peter, because Obama hates Flynn. Why does Obama hate Flynn? Flynn disagrees with his Iranian policy. Flynn disagrees with his Syria policy. So he is a person within the US government, because at the time he was head of the Defense Intelligence Agency, who was going against the policies, who was arguing against the policies of the president, Barack Obama. And so Barack Obama, this is a scenario I'm outlining now. I don't know that this happened. Barack Obama sees Flynn again having discussions with the Russian ambassador, once again going against Obama's treasured policies, this time on Jerusalem. Is it not possible? Is it not even plausible? That would make him very angry. And as a constitutional lawyer, as an academic, is it not also possible that he might, in that case, be the person who, seeing Flynn meddling, as he would see it, in his policies, might have brought up the Logan Act, an act which no practitioner, no legal practitioner, no one in the Justice Department or outside the Justice Department who actually does prosecuting and defending would have taken seriously.
Really, anyone that knows anything about the Logan Act, the very thought of invoking it shows you're grasping at straws. I mean, quite literally. I mean, seriously. You're right. I mean, it's remind everybody what this was all about. Is you trip up Flynn, get him to plead guilty to something he didn't do, and that's a stark warning from the blob and the deep state to the new administration. Watch yourself. Yeah. Okay, we just took out your national security advisor. You know, what did Chuck Schumer say? You know, the CIA has 6 ways to Sunday to go after you. And he said that exactly around that time. Okay, remember when Trump visited CIA headquarters right after he was elected, and how the media just went berserk? Well, Trump was right. The CIA was involved in this, deeply involved in this here. He was absolutely right. And remember how it was being portrayed? So taking out Flynn was an instrumental way to kneecap Trump moving forward. And it was a stark warning, okay?
Absolutely.
Maybe we forgot the sense of proportion, but, you know, taking out the national security advisor in the first month of an administration is extraordinary, unusual. It's extraordinary.
Absolutely.
So to summarize it, Obama hated Flynn because Flynn was against Obama arming Al Qaeda and ISIS in Syria. How about that?
Yeah.
How about that?
He was, yes. He was. And he was against Obama and other things. But, you know, Obama hated Flynn. Obama hated Trump.
Yeah, Obama hated Flynn because Flynn did not want to arm ISIS and Al Qaeda in Syria.
Absolutely.
Think about that.
Yes.
Think about that deeply. Peter, Alexander, let's wrap it up with a topic that we kind of discussed in our live stream on Tuesday. And I think that also revealed itself to be true, and we got it right. And that has to do with the election in 2020 and the fact that Trump and the Trump administration, the White House, is a little mired in the CV thing. And we said Trump needs to change the narrative. His team needs to change the narrative, start looking forward to November, and start discussing news topics that benefit his reelection and benefit the Trump administration going forward, and to just let the CV thing run its course, lift the lockdown, get America back into business, let MSNBC, let CNN, let all of them talk about CV, fine, let them discuss it. But it's time for Trump to go on the offensive. Peter, do you think this was the perfect gift for the Trump White House? Not only Trump, but the whole Trump White House to start getting aggressive and going after the Russiagate hoax?
You're right. And I think the CV crisis is, it's muddled Trump's message, and you can see his frustration. And I think that explains his comments, treason and scumbags yesterday, because I mean, he wants to get back on the campaign. The important thing is, and I want to reiterate something that Alexander McCurris said during our last live, is the timing here is very critical, because we have more information than we've ever had before, and it just keeps coming out. More and more transcripts. Adam Schiff is a pathological liar, and the evidence is ample. I mean, really. I mean, like I said, I started reading and I just got tired of it. I mean, this guy is a lunatic. But the investigations into these people, they have to be expedited, okay? Because if, and this is always a possibility, if a Democrat wins in November, all of this will be squashed, and then it'll be revenge again on the going after the people that stood up to the deep state. So the timing is very critical. We have and Alexander McCurris knows, I mean, these investigations they move slowly, okay? And if you look at Bill Barr, I mean, God, what a rock of stability. I mean, I saw that interview on CBS. I mean, unflappable. I mean, and when you look at our media environment, everyone's yelling and screaming, hair on fire. Twitter wars and all that. And here's a guy that just kind of got his own lane and he's going to do it. But timing's really important. We need to see where this is. We need to get as much out there as possible for the public to know before there's a cover up. And I think it's, I worry about that.
Alexander, quick question.
Yeah.
Trump, ditch Birx, ditch Fauci, forget about CV, pardon Assange, pardon Manafort, pardon Stone, even pardon Cohen, scumbag Michael Cohen as well. Start from zero. Just erase the whole Russiagate hoax. Go on the offensive, scorched earth. What do you think, Alexander?
Well, I don't think he's going to pardon Assange, unfortunately. But with the others, I absolutely, definitely think he should pardon Manafort and Stone. In Manafort's case,
well, clemency.
Manafort, frankly, it was a political prosecution. I'm not denying that he was guilty of many of the things he was charged with, but that was not why he was charged with them. And we now have the memo from Rosenstein to Mueller, which makes that absolutely clear. By the way, that's an extraordinary memo. We haven't talked about it, but there's all sorts of extraordinary things there, which shows how carefully this Mueller investigation was being structured to target 5 individuals. We know 4 of them: Carter Page, Flynn, Manafort, and, I can't remember the 4th. There's a 5th, and it's blanked out. It's Donald Trump.
Yes, that's right.
There's no question about it.
I think the 4th one is Gates. Manafort.
You may be right. You may be right. It's Gates. I think it is Gates. So absolutely, he should pardon those 2. And absolutely, he now needs to go on the attack about this, because let's come back to the essential issue. This was a conspiracy against the President of the United States, the elected President of the United States. There cannot, it seems to me, be a grosser violation of the Constitution than that. So if Trump doesn't go on the offensive about this, well, obviously he's failing himself, because, going on the offensive is the way he's going to win the election. But he's failing to protect the presidency and the Constitution, which is his duty.
Alex, you bring up a really important point. I'm going to have to think about it longer, but a blanket of pardoning, I think it's a very interesting strategy. I don't know if it would be particularly effective. I think that Paul Manafort is really a problematic thing, because he was tripped over process crimes, okay? But he did a lot of things also. That's why I said clemency maybe in his case, because he is in prison, okay? So time served, all right? And that would also go with his colleague Gates. But I think absolutely Papadopoulos, he should be given a presidential pardon. So, he's a young man, okay? And he has a conviction on his name, and he needs to be able to clear his name, okay? I think that's only right. Carter Page, though he was never charged, I really hope that Sidney Powell will take over his charge and sue the pants off the government for what they did to him. All right. I don't think there's a blanket solution to this, but I think there's remedies out there. Okay. Cohen, no.
Why not? Magnanimous. I'm looking at it from a PR perspective. Okay. Here's my question to you, Peter, Alexander. How much greater would it be for Trump to sit there and say the guy that went after him, that's a good point. To also just say, you know what? I'm the president of the United States, left, right, conservative, liberal, telling the truth, or a scumbag. I'm erasing this whole Russiagate hoax. I'm going to be fair. I'm going to start this thing from zero. I'm going to erase it.
The thing is that that's such a really good point. That's a really good point. I want the truth. What we've been saying here for years is I want the truth. Okay. What happens to these people after that? That's a separate conversation. But I want the truth. And for the very reasons that Alexander McCura said, because this was an attempted coup against a democratically elected president. Okay. But we have to get the truth out first. And then maybe, Christopher, you've got a smart idea to tie up all the loose ends and get this disastrous time behind us. We've got a cratered economy we're piecing together again. We have to start focusing on that. And that's a unifying message, I think, to bring the country together. So, but I want the truth out first. I want to know exactly what everybody did. I want to know about the leaking as well. Who did all of that? Okay, I want to expose the accomplices in the media that fueled this on. I want them to be held accountable too. I want them to apologize, and I won't be satisfied until they do. I know I'm not going to hold my breath.
Can I just say, it was Papadopoulos who was the fourth person mentioned in the Rosenstein memo. But I would definitely, I mean, I think as pure humanity, I would pardon Manafort and Stone. I mean, they're both elderly people. They were politicized prosecutions. In Stone's case, I don't think he should ever have been brought. I mean, I was a completely misconceived prosecution. I was completely wrong.
Roger Stone will not spend one day in jail. You heard it here.
Well, I hope so, and I think that I don't think he should, to be honest. And I think absolutely, Manafort is a swamp creature, but he's also a victim. Cohen, I don't know. To be honest, with Snake exactly. I mean, I would basically leave him where he is. That's
I just think it would be sweet revenge to wipe the slate clean with all these guys and then go after the real criminals. Comey, Strzok, McCabe.
Creepy porn lawyer. He's off the board.
Oh yeah, he stays where prosecute him. All right. And any other comments, guys, on Flynn before we get to the super chats?
Well, as I said, I think that it must have been an absolute nightmare that what he has been through. And I'm, again, a bit concerned that Gowdy is saying that he won't get all the money he's had to spend on this.
I saw that.
And I hope he does. And I think people should understand what he and his family have been through in this. I mean, the other thing I would say about Russiagate is the sheer cruelty of the Pelosi's, the Schiffs, and the Comeys conducting this prosecution is just off the scale. They went after innocent people. They destroyed their lives. They will have destroyed their families too, the lives of their families. Obviously, there should be a reckoning for this sort of thing. Beyond politics, the fact that they played God in this fashion is in itself a reason to go after them.
And thank goodness we have an attorney general of the stature, vision, and stability of Bill Barr.
Absolutely correct. I totally agree with that. Yeah.
We've been waiting for a while for Barr to take some action, and boy, did he deliver a big one yesterday. All right, let's get to some super chats, guys. Let's see. Nene is a new member to the Duran community. Welcome, Nene, to the Duran community. And Delma Ray, a new member to the Duran community. Thank you, Delma Ray. Welcome. From Jess, 25-pound super chat. Hi, Alex, Alexander, Peter. Thank you for bringing the truth out against all the fake news. Also, Alexander, I bought a magic mug and a t-shirt, which are both fabulous. Exactly as you promised. Keep up the great work. Thank you, Jas, for that.
Thank you very much.
Alexander's not joking around when he says the mugs and the shirts are great.
No, absolutely. No, absolutely not. No.
My mug is at work. I can't get it.
It's stuck in quarantine.
Stuck in quarantine.
Let's see. We have Momo 199 super chat. Trump 2020 love from Hong Kong. Thank you, Momo, for that. We hope everyone is doing well in Hong Kong. Pete has joined the Duran community. Welcome, Pete, to the community. Kathleen, super chat. DOJ ends the Flynn case to stop the bleeding.
Well, that's, I think, not that's not the view I would have. I mean, I can understand. I mean, at some point, the Flynn case would have collapsed. But if the Schiffs, the Pelosi's, and the Comeys had been in charge, they'd have kept it going for as long as they could to wring Flynn as much as they could. So I don't think that's right.
I think I really want to learn more about his first set of lawyers here, because that seems to be malpractice.
Peter, so do I. Very much, very, very much. I mean, they have very serious questions to answer. And by the way, remember, they were also extremely slow to reveal documents. And they sometimes claimed, as I understand it, the documents they had had been lost when in fact they hadn't been. Sidney Powell has done a tremendous job for Flynn. She's one of the greatest lawyers in America and in the world today.
Yeah, really.
Right. From YouTube Visitor is a new member to the Duran community. Welcome, YouTube Visitor. Thank you for joining the community. From Dipiana, 1999 Super Chat. You are amazing. Thank you, Dipiana, for that Super Chat. From Sparky, a Super Chat. Flynn did assume that he was being recorded.
Yes, I've heard that. I think he probably did. But all I will say about this is that what he may have assumed is not the same as what he actually knew. And the FBI, when they met with him, they didn't tell him that they were recorded, that he'd been recorded, and they certainly didn't show him the transcripts of what he said. They've been investigating that conversation. That's
but the interesting thing is, if my memory serves me correctly, Flynn was like in the Bahamas on the beach or something like that when he took the call. I mean, obviously, in many ways, his guard was down. Was he in Bermuda shorts holding a margarita?
He was literally on the beach. He was. I think it was the Virgin Islands, the British Virgin Islands. But he was literally on the beach, and he was getting all these calls on an open line from the Russian ambassador. So, you know, they were talking to each other. Obviously he wasn't, you know, in his office in Washington, you know, in control. I mean, the other thing to remember is these people had just been through an absolutely murderous election campaign. They'd been fighting right through 2016 to get elected. It's completely unsurprising that Flynn would go off with his wife and family on a holiday and would let his guard fall a bit.
And they knew it.
Yeah, they knew it, absolutely.
All right, from Sparky, another Super Chat. I wonder who recommended Flynn's initial lawyers.
Yeah.
Well, a very good question. As in lots of questions, we just don't have answers to, but which we should have answers to. And I mean, you know, this affair absolutely begs for much more investigation and entrapment. I mean, in this kind of way, is a crime. I mean, I'm not familiar with the law in the United States, but if the police anywhere are trying to set someone up by fabricating a crime around that person, then that is in itself an offense. It's a gross abuse of power, and it certainly repays a full investigation and lots of questions, and those involved, Comey, McCabe, Strzok, Page, all of them should be held accountable for it.
Who said, who this is a kind of a trick question, who said, show me the man and I'll find the crime? Beria said that.
Indeed.
What would become the KGB.
Indeed.
Exactly. From Gail Walton to $2 Super Chat. Thank you very much, Gail, for that Super Chat. From Mude, as a new member to the Duran community. Welcome, Mude, to the Duran community. From Sparky, Super Chat. Did Flynn actually lie to Pence? Is Pence loyal?
Well, this is a good question. My own impression going over all of this is that, of course, Flynn had these conversations with the Russian ambassador. They didn't want the administration didn't want to discuss in too much detail what happened over the course of those conversations. And I think, as so often happens, they were less than forthcoming with what was said. I'm not sure this was deliberate lying exactly. Yeah. I think it was just evasiveness more than anything else. And of course, it was then spun to mean far more than it really did. I mean, bear in mind, this goes on all the time. I mean, you know, people talk, you know, the Russians and the Americans talk to each other, and they won't necessarily tell you exactly what was said. And it's left for people like us on the Duran to piece it together and work it out.
You know, one of the interesting things that I remember early on, I remember commenting to a number of people about it. I don't remember, I think it was I don't know if it was a White House press conference or a Pentagon press conference, but this Flynn came out of the blue, came into the room, and he started talking about policy, and I think it was about Iran. And it was very disconcerting. I mean, it showed the lack of organization in the administration. It was very early days. Trump was having a very hard time finding people. And Flynn, this is my own personal opinion, looking at how he behaved, he was really full of himself, you know, like, I'm here, I'm the national security advisor, I'm Trump's man, you know, and you know, taking the call on the beach, you know, he was in a very heady moment, okay? And I remember when he walked into that press conference, like, what are you doing? It's just, we're talking about something completely different. And then he makes his comments and then he just walks out. It's like, what was that all about? And so I'm sure someone like Pence saw this, is like, what is he doing?
Yeah.
Okay. And did he lie to Pence? Was he just evasive? Did he omit something? I mean, certainly maybe Pence took offense because he's the vice president. But at the same time, did it measure to this level? I mean, obviously not. I mean, I guess people haven't heard that in high politics, there's a lot of egos, okay? And the biggest ego is in the White House right now. So, you know, did he lie? I don't know. What does it mean to lie in this case, okay? Beget, you know.
Well-ended. I mean, one should always remember what Don McGunn, who was White House counsel, told Sally Yates about this at the time. He said, you know, if one White House official lies to another White House official, why does that concern the Justice Department? So, I mean, that to me ought to be the end of the whole thing. It's just incredible that he's just continued and grew to these monstrous dimensions. And it was because people in the media, in the Democratic Party, in the intelligence services, and in the FBI deliberately set out to create a scandal where there really wasn't one. At the end of the day, what Flynn said to Pence, I don't think it's important. I don't think it matters.
I mean, when this, you know, we've been talking about what crimes might have been committed, but overall, it just shows the level of corruption there is, political corruption.
Yeah.
And it's been left unchecked.
Yeah.
The thing that for me, I mean, looking at Schiff and all of the transcripts of all the testimony that he took in his committee, I mean, and Trey Gowdy was there. I mean, he must have been spinning, okay? It's like, but she just said there was nothing. He just said there was nothing. He just said there was nothing. And then, you know, Schiff goes into the men's room and then starts tweeting, you know, to CNN or whatever, you know? I mean, just a high level of corruption. But you know why they did it? Because they thought they could get away with it.
Exactly.
Comey said it. I sent them because I could get away with it. He said that.
Yeah.
This is corruption.
Okay. From Sparky, Pompeo stops Trump from helping Assange.
Yes, well, I'm sure that there's lots of people, but I'm sure that Pompeo's one of the one of them. I mean, can I just say, because of course I've gone through all the legal documents in the Assange case that the US government has produced. It's really quite incredible to see how closely they track Mike Pompeo's comments about Assange. I mean, dressed up in legal language, they look like the kind of things that, like they read like Mike Pompeo's speeches. I mean, on Assange. So yes, I think Pompeo has played a huge role in this.
All right, we've hit 1,000 likes. Thank you, everybody, for hitting that like. We really appreciate it. From Life of Brian, a $10 super chat. Barr closed the Epstein case and pronounced suicide. He green-lighted Noriega's abduction and was a career CIA man. He is duping Trump with strategic leaks.
Well, what I will say about this is, I mean, there's an awful lot about Barr and about his history, which you can debate. And I'm not here to defend every part of his career, every step he has taken. On Russiagate, which is the biggest single issue in modern American history, certainly modern American legal history, he has acted in a completely appropriate manner as Attorney General. Now, whether he has some other mysterious agenda, some other agenda that I don't understand or know about, I can't say, but his actions have been the right ones. I mean, to be very clear, it was he who brought the Mueller investigation to a stop. We discussed this in programs. It was he who set up the Duran investigation, and it's he who has now seen to the end of this grotesque case that was brought against Flynn. So maybe he's done other bad things in the past, but on Russiagate, which is the topic we're discussing now and have to be concerned about now, as far as I can see, his conduct has been exemplary.
All right. From Phoenix FP40, super chat to Alexander. What is the latest on Brexit and how do you see it playing out? The EU seems to be falling apart. Thank you guys for great work.
Well, indeed, I'm going to make a prediction, which is that Boris Johnson will stick with his deadline, that Britain will leave the EU's economic and legal structures in December, unless there is a trade deal. And as I don't expect there to be a trade deal, we will be in a no-deal Brexit type scenario in December. I think one effect of the pandemic and the economic crisis that has come in its wake is that all those economic arguments we were hearing last year, I don't think they carry any traction anymore. I never believed them anyway, but I think now, they've become a complete irrelevance. And I think from Boris Johnson's point of view, he is so publicly committed and identified with Brexit that I just don't think he has any way now that he can pull back. So that's my prediction.
I just got a message. Moscow is officially on lockdown until at the very least May 31st.
Yeah.
We're on lockdown for the rest of the month.
Like us.
All right. From Martial Law, 20 euro super chat. Thank you, Martial Law, for that super chat. We really appreciate it. From Philip Radley for the £2 super chat. For the guest pooch appearance, Peter. For the guest pooch appearance.
One more time?
Chat. There was a super chat for the guest pooch appearance from Philip.
Okay.
From T Cook, a $9.99.
Again then, okay? I'll get 3 of them up here.
All right. From T Cook, a $9.99 super chat. Thanks for your tireless work. Your wives are very patient. Thank you very much, T Cook, for that super chat. From Star Trooper, $10 super chat. Alex, since you want the economy open and take the risk, are you willing to refuse ER help if you get sick so that the spots stay open for the high-risk disabled that need them? I guess that goes to my comment on opening the economy. Yes, I will take responsibility for all my actions. And in Cyprus, I will if the economy opens. And if I do get sick, I will take the appropriate measures to get sick, to get help for my sickness. Absolutely, Star Trooper. I believe that everyone should take responsibility for their actions and we should protect the vulnerable.
And also, I know this is very tricky and I hate that it's been politicized, but let's all keep in mind and think soberly about the following. The longer we're in lockdown, the more people that will die other than coronavirus.
Exactly.
Depression, suicide, addiction, spousal abuse. I could go on and on, all of the ugly sins of our lives, okay? Keep that in mind too. And I know it's very difficult from a moral perspective to start having a balance, okay? Because life is precious. It's obvious to all of us here. But if we want to protect precious life, we have to make sure that people don't become the victims of the lockdown and not the victims of the coronavirus. I think that's fair and balanced.
Now, we've been in lockdown for 2 months, pretty much every country. It's time to make the tough decisions that need to be taken. The economy has to open up. We can't keep the economies in lockdown forever. That's just common sense. So we have to protect the vulnerable. We have to protect the elderly. We have better understandings as to what's going on. We also have better understandings as to how things were inflated. And we need to keep in mind, in my opinion, a lot of the models were inflated. A lot of the leaders did make political decisions, and they can't walk back those political decisions based on inflated models as well. So there's a lot of politics involved here. And in the United States, I believe, and Peter Alexander, if you have a quick comment, I believe a lot of what's going on with the CV right now is more political than it has to do with the health of the citizens. That's what I believe. I think there's a lot of politics going on with the lockdown and the CV in the United States at this very moment.
As we speak right now, it is being reported that officially unemployment is at 14% in the United States, which probably means it's double that, okay, the way they count unemployment. So we're looking at above Great Depression unemployment numbers right now. 40% of all small businesses probably will not make it through. Okay, so keep these, we can talk politics all we want, but we have to start looking at the cold, sober numbers of what is happening to the economy. This is going to be the new pandemic: unemployment, desperation, and this is something we have to soberly look at. Okay, can we protect every single human soul? I'm afraid that's probably nearly impossible. But we know, after months of this, we know who's vulnerable. We know that. That's basically irrefutable. We need to protect the most vulnerable among us, okay? But life is all about taking chances too. I'm trying to keep a balance here. I'm sorry, Alexander Makiris, go ahead.
Well, I take a more, as I said, I'm going to just say this, I take a more, shall we say, careful view about this. I do think we need to move beyond lockdowns, but I still think that we need to take a very, very careful and structured approach to doing this, because I've been looking into this issue of this disease, and it does seem to me a very, very dangerous one. But for what it's worth, I think that the lockdowns are going to start easing around the world. They already are, actually. So, we are probably coming to the end of this.
Well, let me throw something out here, and I'm not trying to be a flamethrower here, but I just would like my friends here on the panel, and I'd like our viewers to think about this. We don't necessarily have to answer it now, but I'd like to posit this. When this is all said and done, compare what most Western countries did and what Sweden did. And basically the outcome is the same. That says a lot.
Well,
I'm just positing it, okay? We don't have all the data here, but it seems to me that's a reasonable way to think about this. Lockdown as opposed to no lockdown with social distancing, but you basically get the same quadrant. It's kind of interesting, all right? So, and you know what? 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months from now, everybody is going to be asking that question. Okay, so
people are already answering.
I don't want to be aggressive. I don't want to be irresponsible. But like I said, sparking this here, how many suicides are we going to have? How many murders? How many people are going to get hurt? Okay, we have to take those lives into account as well.
Well.
Okay. we can go on. Yeah, this is probably a whole different live stream.
I was going to say it's a different subject, and it's a huge one. And as I said,
we appreciate the super chat, Star Trooper. The super chat. Thank you very much, Star Trooper. And let's move on to Sparky, a $2 super chat. Remember, Flynn's initial reps were holders firm.
Yeah, they are. Absolutely, completely so. I mean, one of the things that baffles me is why he didn't realise that.
Yeah.
I really don't understand why of all the law firms in America he picked that one. It still seems most odd to me, but there we are. I would have gone for a good, strong criminal defense team.
Probably recommended. I mean, if you're in DC and these guys are the power DC attorneys, you go to people they say, I recommend these guys.
Okay. One very quick,
I don't know.
One very, very quick piece of advice, which is one that I know about perfectly well from lots of things. If you ever find yourself in a situation where you're being investigated, don't go to politically connected law firms. Go to strong criminal defense ones. That's the absolute. They may be politically connected firms, may be good at all kinds of things. But it's a criminal defense lawyer like Sidney Powell you need when you're in that kind of situation. And if the FBI are out to trap you, and Flynn should have understood that very quickly after events started to unravel after he met with the FBI, then if the police are out to trap you, you absolutely need a good, strong criminal defense lawyer, not a political one.
Yeah, you just have to think now, Flynn thought, again, kind of going back to some of my comments earlier, is that, 3-star general, like 33 plus years in the establishment. I mean, everybody knew who he was. I mean, he was a powerful figure, and maybe an element of hubris played, how dare they? Who do they think they are? Don't they know who I am? I think that played into it. That, sitting down, the FBI wants to talk to me about what? Well, get the White House counsel over here. He should have done that. No, these are not your friends. The
No.
FBI is not your friend,
No.
okay? The police are not your friend.
No.
Remember
So many people make that mistake, Peter. They think, you know, if you're dealing with friends, and of course you're not dealing with friends, and they pay a terrible price for it.
From Steve Thompson, a 30-pound super chat. Assange pardoned and Flynn for FBI director.
Flynn,
Nice.
Flynn back in charge of the National Security Council,
absolutely.
National Security Advisor. That would be brilliant. And Assange pardoned. Well, I don't think Trump will pardon him, but you know, I'm still hoping that the legal outcome from the court case, not the current trial, where I have great concerns, but when it goes to the High Court, I think so many things are now coming out in the trial itself that I actually have good hopes that when it goes to the High Court on appeal, Assange will win there and he will be free. That's my belief. That is my hope. But you know, I can't be sure.
Well, no, look, I don't think anyone can pardon Assange. Okay, I mean,
No.
what the Trump administration could do is drop its prosecution.
Absolutely.
Okay, that's what it would. I mean, that's essentially would be a pardon, but you can't
Yeah.
pardon Assange.
No.
Can't be pardoned by
Well, he hasn't been convicted of anything.
Right.
but I mean, you know, as you correctly say, he could be, a prosecution could be ended. For what it's worth, I think Donald Trump has the authority to do that. I think he does have the authority. I mean, the legal power to do it. I don't think it would be an impeachable thing if he did it, but you know, because some people would say he's interfering in the.
Oh yeah, they will impeach him for his orange hair too.
Exactly. But I mean, I don't
Scorched earth. That's what Trump needs to do.
Exactly.
Scorched earth.
Exactly.
Free them all.
But
remember, let's go
yeah.
back down memory lane.
Yes.
Remember how Theresa May was shaking in her pumps that, you know, that Trump was going to release the documents, you know, that involvement of MI6. He still got that under his, you know, he's got that on his
Scorched earth.
Of course he does.
I mean, Alexander Chris Flores is absolutely right. I mean, just do this huge document dump and let people start swimming in it because there's so much of it out there. And that would just, and that's what Trump needs. He needs to flip the game.
Absolutely.
Got himself mired, and he shouldn't. I respect that he took responsibility and he went to those briefings and all of that, but he muddled things, and that's not his style.
No.
His style is a punch,
Absolutely.
a blow, not incremental stuff. And his ridiculous squabbling with the media does not score him points because the people that are already against the media are already against the media.
Yes.
The people that are for Trump are already for Trump. You're not converting anyone. It's just white air. All right. And I get really, I stopped watching them because it's just too much time and too much squabbling. And I have to say, too much medical stuff was mentioned that I don't understand. Okay. The message is never clear. And then you have the media with their preconceived ideas focus on the man and not the problem.
Yes.
Okay? And that's what Trump allowed them to do that. And he shouldn't let him do that. A good politician doesn't do that. And Trump needs, if he wants to win, he has to regain the narrative, his narrative. That's how he won in 2016.
All right. From Aussie Insider, a new member to the Duran community. Welcome, Aussie Insider, to the Duran community. From St. Longinus, $10 super chat suggestion: need to do a show on what the Fed Reserve is doing to the economy.
Absolutely.
They're buying, meaning privatizing everything not nailed down. Or are you reticent to do so given their power?
No, we're not reticent at all. We should definitely do it, and it's an excellent subject. But of course, we have been absolutely overwhelmed over the last couple of weeks with so many other things: Flynn, the crisis, the health, the pandemic, all kinds of things. But definitely, we should do something.
We try to cover as much as we can.
Exactly.
You know, we're
exactly.
morning, afternoon, evening, all day working.
Yes.
And we try to cover as much news as we can. But absolutely, we'd definitely like to do a show on that. So thank you very much for that super chat and that suggestion. From Sparky: coup attempters should be tarred and feathered.
Well,
how did he call it a coup? I called it a coup.
I call it
There
a
we
coup.
go.
I have absolutely no hesitation calling it a coup. And tarred and feathered, well, that I think is from another time. They should be prosecuted, convicted, and sent to prison. That's what I think they should do.
From Sparky, Pence is good friends with Never Trumper Paul Ryan.
He certainly is. I'm not convinced that Pence will be Trump's pick for vice president.
Peter has been saying Nikki Haley.
Oh, my goodness.
That might happen.
Well, that might happen. Yeah.
That might happen. From Sparky as well, guillotines, yellow vests, tar and feathers. All right, Sparky, thank you for that super chat.
Another time. Okay.
Another time.
No, tar and feather, what does that really mean? Humiliate them.
Humiliated.
Yeah. No,
Humiliate and demand that they ask for forgiveness. Okay, that's the path to redemption.
Yeah.
Admit your guilt.
Yeah.
Admit your guilt and apologize.
Apologize. Well,
whatever happens, who cares?
Peter, remember how we started this program with those 3 tweets that Alex read out to us. What apology is there? None. These people will never apologize.
They're not capable of it.
They're not capable of it.
From Sparky, how is FBI Director Chris Wray still around? Christopher Wray.
Very, very, very good question. I don't understand.
I'll answer that question. We don't use profanity here. Got my point?
There you go. Going on Christopher Wray, another super chat from Sparky. Sally Yates replaced Chris Wray at King and Spalding.
Well,
revolving door.
It's a private club and you're not invited.
You're not in it.
Exactly.
That's exactly. I think that's Sparky's point. Noted from Sparky as well. Another super chat. So far, so good in Georgia. CDC is there, by the way.
Oh, well, gosh.
It's so far, so good in Florida as well, from what I understand, and California as well. So, all right. From Dan Noyes, in the U.S., $100 million has been spent per death.
That wouldn't surprise me. A vast proportion of that, I suspect, has gone into the financial services industry through the feds. So you know.
There you go. Right.
No, I mean, definitely we should do the program that was suggested.
Yeah,
on
absolutely.
the economic responses.
From Gail Walton, a $5 super chat. This elderly person goes to grocery shopping, went out to a farm store and bought plants from a huge garden yesterday and fish each day, no mask.
Oh, good for you.
That's great. Gail, stay healthy and absolutely live your life not in fear. Live your life not in fear. Don't let them put you in fear. Don't let them do it to you. Don't let them make you scared of getting in contact with other people, of touching other people. Don't let them do that to you. From my opinion, from Brando Commando, $5 super chat. I don't think I'll be a right angle V, but I think that 50% of the lost jobs will come back before the end of the year. China is back in business. RN.
I think there will be a lot of. I think we definitely need to do this program about the economy. I think there will be recovery. A lot of jobs will come back. A lot of businesses will come back. An awful lot will be lost, and it's going to be a tough way forward.
I think we have to learn so much more to make any real predictions. I mean, I do this on my program. VUL. Okay,
yeah.
And that's kind of a lazy man's way to try to get a quick answer when the problem is so very complex. First of all, you have to understand how the economy has changed. Okay, there's no going back to before. That's just it's not really reasonable to think that way. How has this pandemic changed the economy? And then once we know how the economy has changed, then we'll have an idea how the recovery might play out. There will be a recovery. The point is that what kind of recovery and for whom?
All right. From Sparky, when elderly died from pneumonia, no one cared. What caused it until CV? Unfortunately, it was often seen as a blessing.
Well, I think true with some people, but
okay.
I mean, I certainly don't see it as a blessing. I've always taken pneumonia very seriously, by the way.
Yeah, and this is going to be debated for a very long time.
Yeah.
Okay, unfortunately. And, we're all at a disadvantage. There's a small, tiny percent of people that actually can talk about this intelligently when I'm talking about the science of it all.
Mm.
And, and when you see two really, really smart people, really well-qualified people, and they're arguing about it, and you want me to jump in? You know what I mean? This is the, and I always like to, my housekeeper, you saw her during the live, she says, Peter, you're such a smart guy. You know so much about history and politics and all that. What's going to happen? I said, I don't know enough about this. Nobody really does. And that's so frustrating.
It is very frustrating.
And I'm gainfully employed. I have a comfortable life, and I see all of these horror stories of people's lives being destroyed through a black swan event that's no fault of their own. And how they're going to come out of this, okay? I mean, everyone knows I'm a huge fan of small and medium-sized businesses because that's real people doing real things. And, and you start wiping them off the slate here, and everything is like Amazon and Kmart and all these really big, what do they call them, box stores? It's so dehumanizing, okay? I really hope, and again, this is maybe foolish, I really hope that, a lot of us will kind of step back and say, do I need all this cheap junk? Maybe we'll learn something from this. Maybe our consumption patterns will change, okay? Because we don't need all this junk, okay? And that may be some kind of paradigm shift that we go through. But if you have no job and you have no money, you're not even going to be able to think about not having cheap junk.
Yeah. We'll get on the Judy Mikovich story, guys. That probably will have to get published on BitChute, by the way, exclusively, because YouTube is not letting any of her story out. So we'll get to that as well. From Andre, a $10 super chat. Thank you, Andre, for that super chat. From Sparky, we need perp walks on both sides of the pond.
In principle, I'm for that.
Okay. All right, Sparky, thank you for that super chat. From Indigo Jones, a $10 super chat. Trump is facing a brief stimulus pittance and a sham for SBA support, yet trillions go to the same elites as 2008.
Yes.
What will stop
true.
what will stop a repeat of foreclosures, bankruptcies, monopoly, buyout we saw in 2008?
This is profoundly true, and if you want me to make a real criticism of Trump and of what's been going on in the United States, I would pitch it more in that direction. He is always someone who actually, until he finds his way, which he takes time to, but he does sometimes get there, he tends to go initially very much with the orthodoxy. And I don't think it's helping him in this situation. But I will always come back to what I said, what I always say when confronted with this. If you have some chance of a change in direction with Trump, be absolutely under no doubt that he will have none with Biden or with anyone who takes Biden's place on the other side. It is the Democrats who are the party of the status quo.
All right. From Dan Noyes, $5 super chat. Masks raise CO2 concentrations by 75%. Exactly the wrong thing to do. Individuals can run their lives better than a government idiot 2,000 miles away.
Well, as I said, I wouldn't know about that. I mean, I wouldn't surprise me in the slightest, actually. I do wear masks when I go out, by the way, and they're almost, they're most uncomfortable.
All right.
I wear masks and gloves. Okay.
Yeah.
From Sparky, a $2 super chat. Rather than lynch mobs, we need tar and feather mobs.
What we need is due process, proper prosecutions, proper investigations by properly trained and honest prosecutors. Those people exist.
I want to push back just a little bit on something I just heard here, is that, the Democrats are not the only party of the status quo.
No.
A good part of the GOP as well, okay?
Oh, of course it is.
And that's why I so thoroughly enjoy having conversations with populists on the left, because we're interested in the same issues. We just have different ways of getting there, and it's a good banter. It's an honest one.
Yes.
It's a moral one, okay?
Yes.
Because the establishment doesn't think in moral terms. That's one of the tragedies, the poverty of the situation. And that's why, I want to say with real people, with real tragedies and real lives, okay?
Yes.
I hate these people in the establishment that just, we need to get, we need to get the stock market going. We need, we need Boeing because it's national security. I really, I'm so tired of, most people are so tired of hearing all of this here. We need to really grab the bull by the horns and reach out across the aisle. And we can do it on this venue here. I do it on my program all the time, and it's very amicable, with very few exceptions, because people that are just ideologically possessed, they're toxic. They're toxic, and it's a toxic politics. And we need to break out of that. And I'm hoping this pandemic will help us do that.
Okay, from Brando Commando, $5 super chat. Any of you see Elon Musk on Joe Rogan yesterday? Very interesting conversation. Elon destroyed Joe on repeating CNN and MSNBC talking points. I've actually got that in my watch list, by the way.
I haven't seen it.
I'll watch it this evening. Thank you for the heads up.
Heads up.
Thank you very much, Brando Commando, for that. Sparky, $2 super chat. Leftists beginning to appreciate the Second Amendment.
Well,
Good point. Good point. From Dan Noya is a $5 super chat. How many government workers have missed a paycheck, been laid off?
There's a good one. That's a good one.
Another good point. From Dan Noyes, thank you for that super chat. Thank you very much, Dan, for that. Rubius 200, $2 super chat. Please address 5G and Chinese influence in EU and UK.
huge
In a show, possibly.
It's a huge subject, and again, I think that really deserves a program. I mean, the issue of the interconnections between China and Europe, and China and various European governments is a big one, and it's a very, very important one in Britain, because the British government, when it was led by David Cameron, got very close to China, and the former Chancellor of the Exchequer here, George Osborne, got exceptionally close to China. So there's lots to talk about. Now, of course, there's a pushback, but there's a lot to say. But I think it's something we do need to do a program about, rather than just
Do a comment.
Because
right.
There's so many angles to that particular story.
Yeah, absolutely. From Sparky, a $2 super chat. The Jimmy Dore Show. That's the super chat. All right, thank you, Sparky.
What I'm going to say is, by the way, we've had a very creative, a very, very helpful group of questions. I mean, out of these questions, we've got two possible topics for future programs: one on the Fed, one on Europe, China. So just
I was on Jimmy Dore. Check me out. I was on.
Yeah.
He's a great guy.
I like him. Yeah,
How long ago was that, so people can search it?
Oh,
Peter?
geez, I guess that's like almost.
That was like a year ago, wasn't it?
I think like more like 3 years ago. Could be 2 years.
Was it that? Oh, 2 years. Okay, so search it out on Jimmy Dore for Peter's appearance on the Jimmy Dore Show. From Bucko Haram, new member to the Duran community. Welcome, Bucko, to the Duran community. From Mike V, a $10 super chat. Can the Duran give some commentary on Greece's Air Force pilot putting Turkish fighter jets in his crosshairs, ready to terminate this week? What's the point of NATO if members don't like each other?
Well,
what is the point of NATO, period?
What is it?
Anyway, Alexander, you want to take that real quick?
Well, I haven't heard this particular story, but I mean, what I will say is, if you live in Greece, or you are Greek, you will know that there is constant pressure on the borders between Turkey and Greece, and Turkey and Cyprus. And I understand that one of the opposition parties in Turkey is now actually criticizing the Turkish government for not being even stronger on this issue, and not insisting that Greek islands belong to Turkey in this. As far as Greeks are concerned, I think it's absolutely fair to say that most Greeks perceive a threat to themselves, not from Russia, the supposed enemy, much more so from Turkey. And I think the Turks, I don't know how they feel about Greece, or how threatened they feel about Greece. But as I say, those tensions are there. They've existed for a very long time. Under Erdogan, especially in the last few years, they have got much worse. And given that the situation in Turkey now economically is very bad, there is on top of the economic contraction that the pandemic causes there. They've also got a major financial crisis brewing, and there's talk of asking help from the IMF and from all sorts of things of that kind. It would be completely unsurprising if Erdogan looked for some external issue that he could try and rally Turkish opinion upon, and that might be Greece. So as I say, it's a dangerous situation. It's always been dangerous. It's got far more dangerous, and NATO isn't helpful at all. It's a problem, not
Well,
a
I mean, but Turkey violates Greece's airspace on
all the time, regularly in our seas and all these things. And we've had many periods, by the way, of very good relations with Turkey. I mean, I've been to Turkey on occasions when, as I said, relations between Turkey and Greece have been very good. And at a person-to-person level, you know, Greek people and Turkish people interact very well. But at this moment in time, relations are very tense, and that comes on top of a long history of tensions that goes back many, many, many decades.
Okay, from GEC 11112, FYI, plandemicmovie.com has Judy M. story. Yes, I've seen the trailers for that movie. It's been shared with me, and I look forward to seeing it. From Dan Noyes, $10 super chat. I hope someday people see governments for what they are, eating the hearts of individuals who want to be free. Those who deny individual rights cannot claim to be defenders of minorities.
True enough.
True enough. Thank you. Thank you very much for that super chat. Dan from Gloria M, $20 super chat. Keep up the good work. I appreciate you. And the final three super chats, another one just came in. From Brando Commando, US and UK started trade talks. Know any specifics or updates on the potential deal? Will the UK make more deals in the near future with Commonwealth?
I think they will make more deals, and I think there will eventually be a deal with the US, but I don't think it's going to happen this year. So I think we're going to be in a situation at the end of this year when Britain will be trading with most countries, including the EU, on World Trade Organization terms. And frankly, that doesn't worry me in the slightest.
Okay. From James Jackman, super chat. Have you guys discussed Jesse Ventura for president?
No.
No. I remember him in his wrestling days, though. That's for sure. From Andre C.
I've met him.
Yeah.
He came to Moscow when Mr. Flynn was in town. He's a very interesting guy, very smart guy, very blunt, very friendly too, very easygoing. So, I mean, that was just my impression. I haven't followed his political career, other than he was governor. But he strikes a very easy person to get along with. So I'd vote for him for that.
All right. From Andre, the final super chat, $10 super chat. First, lockdown in the West wasn't really a lockdown. Second, no job means no health coverage in the US. Wouldn't you be fighting lockdown to take your chances with CV? Alex, you are misled on CV bad. I'm not sure which Alex, me or you, Alexander, but okay. Yeah, no job means no health coverage. Yeah.
Well, absolutely. I know. I mean, in
the US.
I mean, it is different in Europe, obviously, but I mean, one mustn't underestimate the effect, obviously, of the economic crisis and what it is doing to people, and I absolutely don't.
All right. From Sparky, a $5 super chat. Police no longer protect and serve in the US. They've become roided out, jackbooted government thugs. Judges and prosecutors are
that's a gross generalization. Okay, I take great pride in the fact in the state of California, where I had part of my childhood, is that there are county sheriffs now saying, I'm not going to enforce these laws. I'm not going to arrest these people for going to church. And they're not going to do it. Okay. Obviously, there are elements in police forces around the world that go way beyond the written law, okay, and the spirit of the law. But to our just police, all police as something maniacal is not fair. It's not fair at all.
No, there's, just to close out, there's two instances. I mean, I've seen the one was with the police that were taking a heavy hand, say with Shelley Luther. That's the one case, or with the mom at the playground. But there was the other case the other day where I saw one of the police sheriffs who was saying in Arizona, one of the counties in Arizona, was on Tucker Carlson. He said he's not going to enforce the lockdowns because he wants people to be free and to earn a living. So it goes both ways there. I mean,
I'm sure that's true. The one thing I will say, and I mean, I one set of comments I've received about the Flynn affair is that I've said, that what happened to Flynn is completely not normal. And a number of people who, some of them have had experiences of this, have come back and said to me, well, it may not be normal, but it's not perhaps quite as abnormal as you might think. So, I take note of that. I mean, I'm not going to say that the police are all bad. Absolutely not. Of course not.
No, Andrew McCarthy in an interview, Alexander, said that, stuff like what happened to Flynn may be normal in a case when the FBI is dealing with the mafia. Or, organized crime. Using those types of tactics. That's what Andrew McCarthy said.
Stuff like that.
Yeah. But he said in the case of someone like Flynn, it's absolutely not normal.
No.
And we got one more super chat that came in, and that is from Indigo Jones. Banks don't pay back taxpayer bailouts, but small business does. Why no debt relief for the middle classes?
I completely agree with that.
Because they have no political power. That's what it is. They don't have power.
Well, of course not. That's exactly. I mean, that comes exactly to the point that Peter just made. I mean, there are some people who are far more privileged and powerful in this world than others, and that's the reality of it. And that's the reality that needs to change. And maybe this event will be the catalyst that changes it. So we'll see.
All right, that's it. All the super chats have been cleared. Guys, Peter, any final comments as we sign off?
We're going to be following, calling the crisis, but mine's much more on the economic side and the assault on civil liberties. And plus, I guess it's today, we did a program on remembering victory in Europe over fascism 75 years on, which is very important to me. And I'll have Jeff Roberts on with Dmitry Babich tomorrow, and we're going to continue that conversation. So if you want some non-COVID-19 programming, I invite you to watch Crosstalk today and on Monday.
And a happy Victory Day to everyone out there, and happy Victory Day tomorrow as well. It's the 9th as well too.
It is indeed.
Everyone Alexander?
I was going to say, I mean, it's an event we should certainly commemorate and not forget in these times.
All right. And Alexander, any other stories that you're keeping an eye out on?
I'm trying, as I said, to keep up with this on Russiagate. I predict that over the next couple of days, we're going to have a tumble of more stories coming out. And Papadopoulos is the one to look at now, I think.
I think what we need to do as a marketing idea, we should have Duran popcorn. What do you think?
Duran popcorn.
Why not?
We're going to need it. We're going to need it. That's for sure.
I mean, for sure, between now and the election, tons of it.
Oh yeah, we're going to be eating a lot of popcorn until November.
Yes,
2020. That's for sure.
Absolutely.
All right, guys, that's it. Thank you to everyone who joined us on this live stream. Thank you for all your generous super chats and for all your great questions. And we hope you have a great Friday and a good weekend ahead. Take care. Be safe, everybody. Have a good evening.